Okay, Aisha. Not quite, please. Good morning, good morning, good morning once again. Good to see you all. Back again for another session of daily learning with lockdown inspiration. And I welcome you all. Comments are coming in. We're live on Facebook, live on YouTube. We are trying a new program. Good morning, Shirley Feldman. Tracy Mindel, are you sure you're on the right video? Tracy Mindel, make sure you're on the right video, okay? Log out and get onto the right video for the right day. Tuesday, 26th of May. Okay, I see people are logging on. Facebook is busy. Let's see where the YouTubers are. Good morning. Great, great. The messages are coming through.
Thank you, Mara.
We're just waiting for everyone to log on. Where are the YouTubers? Any YouTubers there? Let's see. Looks like it's a bit of a delay on the YouTube side. Hold on one second. So just bear with us for a moment while we find the YouTube link. Oh, I see what the problem is. Okay, I think we got the YouTube corrected here. Should be live now. Let's see the YouTubers coming on. Thank you all for your comments. Great. Just give me a second. We're going to give it a moment just to allow for people to log on. Thank you all. Okay, now it's working. Good. Okay, so let me start welcoming everybody. Thank you all for your comments. Anyone who's logging on, we'd love to see you. Please do share and do mention to us that you're here with us. We'd love to know you're here. I just want to welcome all those who have commented. Good morning, Shirley Diamond, Sherilyn Diamond, Shirley Feldman, Helen Feinstein, Mark Wachenheim, Melinda and Jaime, Drew, Ruth Kaplan. Thank you. Appreciate the feedback. Manfred Kalnick, Janice Leibovitz, David Ginsberg, Ellie Faglin, g'day. Good to have you here. Good morning, all. Clive Bedell, Aline Dolovitz, Ian Clemenson, happy you enjoyed. Bernice Krause, thank you. Fega, Sega, thank you very much. Good. So our crowd is picking up now. Okay, fantastic. Good. Morning, Simeon Angel. Good morning, good morning, good morning. What a morning, what a morning. Good to have you all here. We had a fantastic learning program last night. And we're going to get going here in just a moment. Thank you, Shelley Smith. Appreciate your message. Hilly Lipworth, good morning. Thank you for joining. We've got messages coming through here from Facebook and YouTube. Wonderful. What a crowd. What a crowd here. Great to have you here. Over 30 students already online, and the numbers are picking up as we go. So we're going to get going. And thank you all for joining. Still people logging on. Jason Becker, good morning. Thank you. Charmaine Shatkin, thank you for your message. Keep it going, guys. Keep the messages coming in. We love it. We appreciate your participation here and joining us. Thank you. And let's get going. Our topic for today is Jewish fragmentation. This is a topic that often intrigues everybody. Jewish fragmentation. Are we so fragmented? Are we so divided? Is the question of today. Good morning, Raylene and Stan. Thank you. Appreciate the feedback on last night. We had a fantastic program last night as part of our Tikkun Lel preparation program. Thank you all for being part of it. I'm going to get going now. I am trying a new platform here, which is broadcasting to Facebook and to YouTube together. So I'd love your feedback on this, so just to make sure if you can comment in the comments that you're hearing me clearly and seeing me clearly. I'd appreciate that feedback from both our YouTubers and our Facebookers. Let us know you're with us. We're currently sitting on about 30 students across both platforms. I'd love to hear. Just post if you can hear me loud and clear. David Ginsberg, thank you. David Seif, Dennis Solomons, Tracy Mindel. Good, you're on the right chat now. So you're doing well. Okay, so I'm going to wait. I'm going to keep on going, but I'd love to know if you can hear me loud and clear, both from the YouTube side and the Facebook side. So far, so good. Thank you, Shirley Feldman. I appreciate that. Great. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Robin, Raylene. Great. YouTube's good. Facebook is good. Let's get going. Fragmentation. Is the Jewish community fragmented? Are we fragmented? So often this bothers people. It bothers us. Why are we so divided in terms of customs? Why are we so divided? Why are we so fragmented? Why are we so different? Why can't we get it right? Why can't we get it right? Thank you, Moira, Ian, thank you. Helen Miller, thank you for your comments. Raylene, Robin, thank you all. Why can't we get it right? Why can't everybody just agree? Everybody just do the same? Same siddur, same book, same customs. But instead, we choose to all differ. It looks like we're fragmented. And some people have seen the fragmentation as the unfortunate consequence or casualty of exile. Because we're in exile, and because the transition of authentic Torah teachings has gone through many changes over the generations, as a result, this is why we have different practices and different customs. So people see it as a glitch, so to speak, as a consequence of the circumstances in which we find ourselves. And the question is it that? And if we are supposed to be all the same, practicing the same, doing the same, Sfardim, Ashkenazim, Hasidim, Misnagdim, and whoever else, then maybe we need to forge a way to recreate that. Do we need to find a way to merge customs and bring people to the same book, to the same custom? So I want to share with you a teaching of the Arizal. It's printed by his student. The Arizal, by the way, for those who aren't aware, good morning, Dennis Bessarabi. For those who aren't aware, the Arizal didn't write his own Torahs, his own teachings. The Arizal taught things mainly orally. The one who wrote down the teachings of the Arizal was Reb Chaim Vital, who was a student of the Arizal. He wrote down a lot of the teachings. So let me share with you something Reb Chaim Vital writes. He lived in the 1500s, born in Israel, lived in Tzfat and Yerushalayim, and later in Damascus. And he was authorized by his teacher, the Arizal, to record his teachings. And let me read to you what he writes about differing customs in the Jewish community. He says like this: German, Spanish, Catalan in Spain, Italy, and other Jews have different customs pertaining to prayer, not only with regard to recently written liturgical poems and hymns, but also with regard to essential components of prayer that are mandated by Jewish law. My teacher, the Arizal, would say that there are 12 supernal gates that correspond to the 12 tribes. And these are alluded to at the end of the book of Ezekiel of Yecheskel, where he prophesies that there will be 3 gates on each of the 4 sides entering into Yerushalayim. Similar to how they camped in the desert, there were 3 tribes per side. So too says Yecheskel that there will be 3 gates per side for each tribe to have its way in. Says the Arizal that these 12 supernal gates correspond to the 12 tribes. Each tribe's prayer ascends through its own gate. Each gate and the spiritual path that lead to them is certainly not identical. Correspondingly, says the Arizal, each tribe prays with variations. People should therefore maintain their unique prayer customs. It is possible that the versions that they were taught correspond to their particular tribe and are the means by which their prayers ascend. However, laws that are clearly stated in the Talmud apply equally for all the tribes. So we see a fascinating insight here by the Arizal, where he's distinguishing between the laws written in the Talmud or Mishnah or Halacha, which those are laws that generally are practiced across the board, although we do find difference, for example, for Ashkenaz or Sfardim, Ashkenazim or Sfardim, sometimes they will differ because their halachic source differs. Because sometimes the Ramah, who is the Ashkenaz authority, and the Bet Yosef, who is the Sfardi authority, they may differ. But generally speaking, what's written in the Talmud with the Mishnah and Halacha, it gets practiced across the board. So what changes? Says the Arizal, it's the prayers, it's the nusach, it's the customs that they change. And we shouldn't see it as fragmentation. This is my point for today. Initially I said that some people see this as a consequence of exile, that we are fragmented in our customs. Says the Arizal, that's not the case. The difference in prayer, the difference in custom is actually different gateways leading a person to Hashem. All roads lead to Rome. All gates lead to God. Just different people take different gates to get there. We see some interesting things from this statement of the Arizal. We see from the Arizal that customs and differences dated back all the way back to his days. That's about 800 years ago already. Then there were differences in opinions and difference in customs. But what the Arizal is teaching us is don't get bogged down by it. Don't get bothered by it. Don't get frustrated by it, but rather celebrate it. Celebrate the fact that God created 12 different gateways, 12 different pathways to lead us to Him. And each tribe represents their process. We know that when the Jewish people were in the desert, in the Midbar, we see that Bilam and Balak tried to curse them. We all know the story, how Balak calls on the prophet Bilam, and they want to curse the Jewish people. But before I get to that, I want to welcome you all onto our daily learning program. I thank you all for joining us. If you're just logging on now, please do share in the comments that you're with us. We'd love to know. And we're going to get going here in just a moment. We all know the story. Just excuse me for a moment. Right. Okay. What a crowd here. Beautiful. Between Facebook and YouTube, over 36, 37 students. Amazing to have you all with us. Thank you. So, let's go back to Bilam and Balak in the desert, looking to curse the Jewish people. And one of the things that they did was Matovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkinatecha Yisrael. Brian Owen, daven in Israel to experience this. Oh boy. Daven in Israel that the different groups of Klal Yisrael, is that what you're suggesting? The different groups of Klal Yisrael should actually work side by side next to each other. Okay? So, Bilam and Balak, we know the famous words, Ma tovu o'alecha Yaakov mishkenetecha Yisrael. How beautiful are the tents. How beautiful are the living places of the Jewish people. That was the praise and the compliment that Bilam and Balak gave for the Jewish people in the desert. But there's another verse. The verse says, Ra vayar et Yisrael shochen nishvatav. And he saw that the Jewish people were dwelling on their own. Bilam saw Israel dwelling by their tribes. That's the word. He saw Israel dwelling by their tribes. And listen what Rashi says. What does Rashi say? He saw each tribe dwelling separately, not intermingled. Not intermingled. How do you understand this? He was praising and complimenting the Jewish people at the time. And he's saying to them, he's saying about them, look how private they were. Each tribe stayed on their own. Each tribe lived on their own. They didn't intermingle. They didn't mix. That was a compliment. That was a compliment. How do we understand this? What was he complimenting exactly? Hi, Robert Levy. Thank you. Maureen, thank you for joining us. So let me share with you an insight from one of the Hasidic commentators. He says it didn't just mean modesty. We're not only talking about modesty here, and they managed to dwell separately without intermingling with each other, and they lived as a modest nation should live. That's not the only thing we're saying over here. What we're saying over here is, when it says that each tribe lived on its own, what we're suggesting and saying is, each tribe followed its own path. So for example, Reuven, tribe of Reuven, followed the process of love and kindness. The tribe of Shimon followed the process of gevura, of severity, of strictness and discipline. And so on and so forth. Each tribe had their unique characteristic, had their unique way. And when Bilam said, and he saw that they were dwelling by their tribes, what that meant was each tribe was recognized for what it represented. Its attribute was its pride. Its attribute was its a pride among the nation of Israel, how each tribe knew what each other tribe represented. That was unique. And Bilam's commenting, he says, look how they live, each on their own tribe. They don't see a need to mix. They don't see a need to blur the boundaries between them. Let's bring everyone together. Why fragment the community? Let's bring everyone together. Same custom, same nusach, same davening, same this, same that. That's not the praise that Bilam said. Bilam said, look how beautiful they are. Each on their own, and yet they dwell as one camp. They dwell as one nation of Klal Yisrael. That's an amazing thing. Often we look at people around us, and we often think to ourselves, why aren't I like him? Or why aren't I like her? Or maybe I should be doing it differently because I'm not doing it right. Or maybe I should be doing it like him or her because that's the correct way of doing it. Now, as I said, if it's relevant to halacha, what Jewish practice, what Jewish law says, then that's true. And Jewish law says to do it a particular way, unless there's a differing opinion, that's the way we got to follow. But when it comes to customs, and it comes to nusach, and it comes to minhagim that we've got in our families, there's definitely room for diversity. It's not fragmentation, and maybe that's a very important difference between the two. Fragmentation implies that the Jewish people are conflicted and separated and not in sync with each other. That's not the word we're looking for. The word is diversity. Diversity doesn't mean we're dwelling apart. We were dwelling in the camps of Israel, in the desert, with Klal Yisrael, with the Jewish people, and Bilam said, look how beautiful they are. Each camp representing its identity, or its unique ideology, its unique custom. I remember a talk that my good friend Harry Sideropoulos, who I'm sure you all know who he is a friend of the Jewish people. He's a card holder. But he actually belongs to the Greek community, but he's very, very fond of the Jewish people. So Harry Sideropoulos was a guest for our young adult dinner, a number of years back. And he gave a message, a talk, based on his own personal journey of life and based on his own circumstances. He gave a talk to the young adults. And he was speaking about his own journey, where he went from radio to comedy, stage performances. And he said at some point in time, he had to recognize his own characteristics, his own qualities, what makes him Harry Sideropoulos. And he could have looked around to many others who are on radio and TV or humor or comedy, and he could have said, why aren't I like them? Why don't I look like them? Why don't I perform like them? Why don't I have comedy like them? But there's no point in that, because God didn't create two of the same people. So Harry Sideropoulos said to himself, what I had to go through was recognizing that I am one type, one of a kind, Harry Sideropoulos. And I've got my own unique characteristics. I've got to embrace those characteristics because that's what makes me unique. And therefore, I've got to design my comedy around me, my stage performance around me. I can't design it around somebody else because I'm not somebody else. I am who I am, and I've got something to contribute to the community, to the wider society. That's the message that the Torah tells us. That's the message of the Arizal, where the Arizal said that when we see different people praying for different Sidurim, it doesn't mean that they're fragmented. Each one is accessing another gateway, another avenue, another direction towards Hashem, towards connecting to Hashem. Before I continue, I just want to ask you all, those who have just joined us, if you'd like to share your comments, your greetings, or any questions you may have, feel free to share them in the comments, either on Facebook or YouTube. It's great to have you all with us. We've got a great crowd here this morning. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them. The only problem with this approach is the harm that it can cause. Is because when we're different, this is when there can be conflict. In other words, had we all been doing the same, then why should there be conflict? But the moment we create diversity, the moment we allow for different pathways and different gateways, this is what causes the risk of conflict. We spoke a little while back before Lag BaOmer on one of these programs in the morning. We spoke about Rabbi Akiva's students. And Rabbi Akiva's students, they didn't show kavod, zelozeh, they didn't show respect one to another. So you see what harm diversity can do. That if there's diversity, the risk of diversity is, and there's also exclusivity. People who think that they are superior to others, that brings to conflict. And so we've got to be aware of this, and we're going to be careful how we approach this and how we act upon this. I often marvel when I look around the different communities. If you think about it, every community has something unique to contribute. And my wish and prayer and hope is that we can look at that community, and instead of finding the differences between us, let's find the commonalities, the common denominator. And what do I learn from that particular from that particular community? That community with its diverse way, its pathway, its gateway, is teaching me something that I can incorporate in my own life. That's how we have to think. For example, the Sephardim. What do I personally learn from Sephardim? There are many things to learn from Sephardim. They are very, very warm people. They cook amazingly well. But in particular, what I learn from Sephardim is their respect of tzaddikim. They are in awe of their tzaddikim. They give utmost respect to their rabbanim and their tzaddikim, because part of their emunah is called emunat tzaddikim, believing in the righteousness of the rabbanim and the tzaddikim of their communities. That's something we can learn from, because we know that the Torah teaches us this. But when you see a particular community practicing in a particular way, it inspires you to implement that. Or take, for example, from the Hasidim, Breslev. The Hasidei Breslev are known for their simcha and their joy. Now, simcha is not a Hasidic word. It didn't come from Breslev. Reb Nachman of Breslev wasn't the origin of simcha. Simcha is written in the Torah. Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. Serve Hashem with simcha. But who lives it? Which community do we see so invested in the mitzvah of simcha? It's the Hasidim. In particular, the Breslev Hasidim are known for their joy and their simcha. That's something to learn from. I may not be a Breslev Hasid, but at least I can carry that attribute and the character trait in my own personal life too. There are D. Tanner from Cape Town. Thank you for joining us on Facebook. I'd like to pause here for a moment. Are there any other out-of-towners that are online with us? Maybe from Australia, or maybe from Israel, or maybe from Cape Town or Durban. Any other out-of-towners that are with us here? I'd love to engage and welcome you here. Okay? No one else? Let us know. Send us your greetings. There are communities that focus on Zionism, the love for Israel. Now that's amazing to watch the celebrations of Yom Yerushalayim, Yom HaAtzmaut, and other celebrations of the modern state of Israel is inspiring to watch, inspiring to see, inspiring to be part of, because that love for Eretz Israel, the love for Israel, is something we've all got to incorporate in our lives. And then there are communities that love Kiruv and love people and love embracing Yidden, embracing Jews into their communities. And that's also another attribute that we can incorporate. There's so many different attributes, so many different pathways and roads that lead to the same destination. They lead to the service of Hashem. Instead of focusing on that which divides us, let's focus on that which unites us. That's important. That's important. And yes, there are communities that do things that may bother us. There are communities that practice in a way that disturbs us or is not our taste. Okay. So as long as it's not hurting you or bothering you or hurting others, for that matter, let it be. That's their way of life. That's how they practice. That's okay. We've got to find our unique role in the service of Hashem. Last night, in my talk for our 10 talks in preparation for Shavuot, I spoke about the concept of bittul, which bittul means self-nullification. It means nullifying or subserving oneself to a greater cause. I mentioned the story, and I'll just repeat it here. I mentioned the story about a group of Russian Hasidim who were sitting in Russia one night bringing about the concept of bittul. They were talking about this concept of subservience to Hashem, nullification to a higher cause, and that was the theme of the Farbrengen the whole night, and it went the whole night. And in the morning they got up and they went home, but the policemen on the roads, the Russian policemen, saw them and heard them and stopped them because they were suspicious of what these guys were doing out on the road so early in the morning. And the Russian policeman says, "What are you doing here? Who are you?" And the response of one of the Hasidim was, "I am bittul. I am self-nullification." He didn't even remember his own name. All he remembered was the theme of the night, bittul, subservience to a higher cause. Now let me explain something. When it comes to bittul, nullifying oneself, subserving oneself to a greater cause, it doesn't mean to lose oneself. It doesn't mean lose yourself and evaporate into thin air because you're now subserving yourself to a greater cause. That's not the meaning of bittul. Bittul doesn't mean that you lose your qualities. Bittul doesn't mean that you use your skills. That you lose your skills, but rather to use the skills. Bittul means that whatever I have, whatever I know, whatever I can do, I don't do it for myself. I do it for the sake of a higher purpose, for the sake of God. That's bittul. And so we're not asking ourselves to lose ourselves or evaporate into thin air, but rather to think to ourselves, like Harry Sideropoulos taught us, what's unique to me? In terms of my looks, in terms of my presence, in terms of my language, in terms of my character traits and qualities, what's unique to me? And based on what's unique to me, see how I can pave my own path to the service of Hashem. And that's the power of unity through diversity. No one's expecting anybody to be the same. And it's okay. So to answer our question, are we fragmented? We're not fragmented. No. Judaism is not fragmented. It's diverse. That's the difference. Next time you see someone who's praying a little differently to you, or practicing a little differently to you, or holding a different color book to you, don't say, "Oh, why are we so fragmented? Why are we so different to each other?" Rather say, "Why are we so diverse?" Because diversity brings beauty. And that's what makes us unique. That's what makes us so special. Any comments or questions that you may have on today's learning, we'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to post them. I'm happy to take questions or address questions on the chats, either Facebook or YouTube. So nice to have you all with us today. Let's just wait and see. It's interesting. Let me just touch upon Bilam's words. Bilam's words were, "Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanesecha Yisrael." He speaks about, Bilam speaks about two words there, Ohalecha and Mishkinotecha. He speaks about the tents and he speaks about the dwelling places. Ohalecha and Mishkinotecha. And the commentaries explain that Ohalecha means your home, your tent, and Mishkinotecha, your dwelling places, means the base medrash where you're learning. It's a reference not just to our physical abode, to our physical home. It's actually a reference to our spiritual home as well, to the shul or the base medrash. And I think this is important because Bilam is complementing the diversity both at home as well as the diversity in the shul. Our homes are different, for sure. Some of us like this color, some of us like that color. Some of us like this type of furniture, some of us like that type of furniture. So when it comes to the ohel, to the tent, to the living place, to the home which we live in, we accept diversity. When it comes to mishkanotecha, to the dwelling place, to the shul, to the learning place, to the base medrash, here Bilam is telling us there too is a beautiful diversity. There too is beautiful how the Jewish people, they learn different subjects and yet they mix. They practice different customs and yet they mix. They daven different nusachs and yet they mix. I'm not sure why this is easier said than done. Why is it that communities around the world just can't get this right? I think in South Africa here we're quite blessed. In South Africa here we should be complimented about our take of unity and respect towards different communities and customs. Not sure why overseas, in many different areas, it's not the case, because it's sometimes a sad reality. It's a sad reality. Why can't they just get along? Why are they just focusing on that which divides them and separates them? Why can't they focus on that which unites them and connects them? We're not fragmented, we're diverse, and we have to accept that. Because ultimately, all roads lead to Rome. All roads lead to God. Some do it this way, some do it that way. Says the Arizal, each one is taking his gateway towards Hashem. We don't need to squash it. We don't need to eradicate it. We don't need to nullify it, but rather to embrace it and to uplift it and transform it so that all parts stand side by side and support one another in the service of God. It's been wonderful having you all online with us again. Thank you for your feedback on the group, Arlene and Sherilyn. Thank you all for being on Facebook and YouTube. I wish you a fantastic day ahead. Take care, keep safe, keep sane, and I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow. 10:30 a.m. Same place, same time.